Hello, hello, welcome, please come in. It is time to resume our Jack-of-all-trades runs today in the final game in the series, Elden Ring. And unlike the prior two games, Elden Ring actually has a starting class where all my stats can start off equal. Straight 10s across the board, and all it cost me was my pants. But this is Elden Ring, which means first on the list is going to be a lot of setup. First up, I jump off a cliff to avoid finding the grafted Scion, then over to this Grace to chat with Melina to get Torrent, and the nearby ruins gets me the Lordsworn's Greatsword. Stat requirements are going to be a problem throughout this run, but at least the Greatsword can be pretty easily wielded two-handed. Grab this free gold Foulfoot, then to this church to pick up the Flask of Wondrous Physic and my first tier for said physic. Two more tiers from this minor Erdtree and it's into Fort Height. And wow, I'm really struggling to successfully navigate this fort without climbing. That's rough. Anyway, this chest has a Dectus Medallion half and some backstabs get me Bloody Slash. It really is a struggle doing all this very slow setup after having played, frankly, too much Night Rain. Don't get me wrong, Elden Ring is an amazing game, but boy, the start is slow. Anyway, buy a dagger in the round table hold, slap on Bloody Slash for some bleed buildup, and it's time to slowly carve this dragon to death. Whee! There we go, that's 90,000 runes, and first on the list is some pants and a regular sword. Hi Ronnie, sure, I'll take the bell. I will not be using it, but okie dokie. Alright, so all these runes get me up to 13s across the board with 35,000 runes left over. That's a little bit stressful, but that's the game, I guess. Oh, I should pick up some whetstone knives. Technically, Blacksmith can change Ashes of War, but it's more convenient if I can do it myself. And in the interest of getting as many runes as possible, it's time to kill another NPC invader, Nereus. Which goes pretty well, despite Yura doing absolutely nothing. This gets me the Reduvia, which will be a very useful bleed weapon in this run. And I can kill Patches to get his bell bearing, so I can buy a few gold feet and the recipe to make more. Thank you, Patches. I should buy a bow and arrow so I can hunt more birds later. That will be very important. And then it's down to the Weeping Peninsula to grab even more random stuff I might need. Another golden seed, 2 sacred tears, and while I'm here I should fight the Erdtree avatar because it's pretty easy. Oh, right, I kind of forgot you can't use weapon greases on infused weapons. I really hope FromSoft keeps that Night Rain change in future titles. It's very nice. Lantern! Forgot that you sometimes need light in this game. I think I want to get another batch of levels before starting the next actual boss. Let's kill this Tibia Mariner. Why am I doing this with a bleed sword instead of infusing Sacred Blade for actual damage? Excellent question. Why am I doing that? That's not quite enough. I guess I can kill an Erdtree avatar. Again, not sure why I'm doing this with a bleed sword instead of an infusion that would be better suited to the task. Maybe I've just been playing too much Night Rain, so my brain is not used to being able to customize my weapons. Who can say? The fight does take a few attempts, but that's mostly because the Erdtree avatar can one-shot me. But Circle Strafing with charged attacks does eventually win the fight. Seriously, all those attempts and you never once thought, hey, this isn't the best weapon for this. Idiot. Okay, now I have enough souls to get another level and do some upgrading of my sword. Let's also buy a Finger Seal and Catch Flame for some decent fire damage, which I am doing after killing a putrid avatar, which is an order that you could do this in. And it's first proper boss time. Morgott, who should be pretty easy. He is the first boss, is very bleedable, and charged attacks can break his stance quite quickly. Admittedly, I am used to better dodging for this fight thanks to Night Rain, but it is in fact still pretty easy. Especially with Bloody Slash. I always forget how strong this Ash of War is early in the game. But anyway, that is the first proper boss down. And with that first boss down, you know what that means. It's time to run more errands. However, the next boss is Godric, and having an upgrade Reduvia is probably enough to win that fight, but hey, I'm going to need to do this nonsense at some point anyway. Take the side path around the castle and into Liurnia. Here I can grab some smithing stones from these gazebos, and only occasionally get sniped by lobsters. And it's time for another Erdtree avatar, except this time I have a fire attack. And fewer blue flasks than I should probably have. And the seal hasn't been upgraded. I'm doing great here. Oh, I should climb up and grab another memory stone. Spells can be pretty useful even with my low stat, so it's worth doing. Hello, Turtle Pope. I don't actually think you will be able to teach me any good spells this run. Mostly because all the good spells have higher stat requirements than I can manage. Then over to the Crystal Tunnel to get some smithing stones and the bell bearing for killing the boss. And this dungeon goes fine, I guess. Oh, I should head back to the round table to upgrade my sword a bit. I mean, I should have also taken off the bleed infusion, but I don't. Much like the prior runs in this series, my biggest concerns are damage and durability, and that is very much on display here. by dying so many times. Like this one. And again. Well, that was 20,000 runes lost. Okay, at least the Crystallion itself is pretty easy, mostly because I just need to break its posture and then bully it until it dies. You know, the Meteorite Staff might be useful. Yeah, I'm never going to be able to use this. Or this spell. What's next? Rotten Breath. Can't cast it yet, but the requirements are actually not that high. I just need to get some levels first. And that means it's time for another Erd Tree avatar. And thanks to Catch Flame and the Flame Boosting Crystal tier, my damage is actually fine. It's just fine. And that gets all my stats to 15, which is very nice. I guess next I'll do Castle Morn for some reason. Why am I here? I guess just to kill the boss? Which does take big damage from Bloody Slash. Unfortunately, I do manage to kill myself using it. Well done, me. There we go. The Grafted Blades requirements are really high, and the boss did not drop many runes, so I'm not sure why I bothered with any of this. Alright, back to Liurnia to meet up with EG, mostly because he sells 4 levels of Somber Smithing Stone, so I can upgrade my big sword, and my Reduvia a few times. And that should be more than enough to deal with Godric. Just gotta do the customary run through his castle, dodging all the random traps. Not dying achieved, and it's time for Godric. He can be bled, and those bleed procs are chunky. In Phase 2, I switch over to using charge attacks to get a stance break, and then use some Bloody Slashes for big damage. Alright, that was easy enough. First Rune Bearer down. And that means my next stop is the big bridge to run past these very angry golems. And if you ever see me crouching at a time where you think, shouldn't he be running? This is more Night Rain causing issues, because I'm trying to do big sprint, but instead I'm crouching. But anyway, reaching the top of the tower means unlocking Godric's Great Rune. I try not to rely on these in a casual playthrough because you don't get very many rune arcs, but Godric's Great Rune gives a +5 bonus to all stats, which is excellent in that it both keeps my stats equal, but also provides a huge bonus to everything. Back in the Round Table hold, I can chat with Roger to take his rapier, and more importantly, the Ash of War attached to it, and get all my stats to 16. Oh, I should also upgrade my casting seal while I'm at it. I acquired the key to Raya Lucaria off-screen, entirely because I forgot to hit record, but thankfully I caught it before doing anything actually interesting. Here I can grab another golden seed to upgrade my flask and warp to Bellum Highway. This leads to another church with another sacred tier for flask bonus, and then warp back to Dragonbarrow for some reason. Oh, I never picked up the other half of the Dectus medallion. Completely forgot. Normally I pick it up on the way to Radagon Sourceal, but that's off limits here because it would make my stats uneven. No, that cliff is not climbable past me, please stop trying. Anyway, the Grand Lift gets me up to Altus properly. Isn't the Ritual Shield Talisman around here? It is, I just need to kill the Demi-Human Queen in here. And Rot Breath deals really good damage, and Rot itself is very effective. Incidentally, I really appreciate Night Rain showing clearly when a boss has a status proc. Like, it's not subtle usually, but it does... Oh, well, I'm dead. Let's try that again, but switch to the Reduvia this time for the second half. Much better. Oh, wait, this is the Ritual Sword Talisman. That's pretty good too. And I do remember where the shield is, so I'll need to pick that up later. Next up is head slightly west of the Shaded Castle, because this hostile NPC has a weapon I want, the Antspear Rapier. This is one of the few weapons that can proc Rot on targets, and it can be infused to inflict other statuses like Bleed and Frostbite. This makes it honestly one of the best ways to deal damage in this game when you have bad stats. Slight issue is that the rapier does require a 20 in dexterity, which is unfortunate as I won't reach that level for a bit. However, Godric's Great Rune can solve this problem, at least temporarily. Into Raya Lucaria, next boss is Red Wolf. Let's actually get the rapier leveled up first though. I assumed this was a somber weapon, but it definitely isn't. It's actually regular. Interesting. Okay, I guess it's back to Altus for a quick side trip to grab a few golden seeds and then dip into this cave to grab the next smithing stone bell bearing. That means getting my rapier up to +12. And since I'm running a bunch of errands, I should also grab the Poisonous Mist Ash of War. That lets my rapier inflict 2 damage over time effects for the price of 1. I mean, bleed is just going to be better most of the time, so I'm gonna go with that, but having poison in my back pocket might be useful. Alright, Red Wolf time. I do have a lot of practice fighting this boss, but honestly, that's mostly with the improved movement in Night Rain, so it's unclear how relevant that actually is. Good news is that my rapier is indeed performing as expected, and the wolf dies very quickly. And then it's time to die to Moongrum, which is very much a standard of this game, and actually sucks more than usual because that costs me my rune arc, which means I can't use my rapier anymore. That's okay. I think Reduvia by itself should actually be more than sufficient for Rennala. And this is definitely true in Phase 1, where bleed procs and fast attacks take out more than half her health in one cycle. Phase 2 does get more interesting because she can actually fight back, but honestly not that much more interesting. Raduvia is fast, deals great damage, and bleeds very quickly, meaning it's very easy to get in hits even while dodging spells and her stupid summons. And that is Rennala down on the first attempt, which is always nice. 2 great runes in my pocket. Now that I have 2 great runes, I can access Leyndell, but first it's down to Weeping Peninsula to grab the Poison Mist incantation, and back to Altus. Couple more golden seeds, can never have enough flasks, and it's over to the Draconic Tree Sentinel. And yep, I am in fact just going to cheese this fight. Listen, it's cheap, it's easy, and some days, I'm tired. This fight isn't even that hard. I will demonstrate that later in the run when I have to fight what I'm pretty sure is an identical Tree Sentinel. So now we wait and relax. And we're back! And all the runes I now have means I can level up my character to have all my stats at 17. Getting pretty close to just being able to use the Anspur Rapier normally, but not quite yet. You know what? Radahn should be pretty free, and he is worth a lot of runes, so let's go do a festival. Radahn's moves can be difficult to dodge, and I, bluntly, have never really learned to dodge them properly. The good news is that Radahn can be rotted, and Rotten Breath can be cast from horseback. And the status build-up on the dragon incantations are very silly. I do need to be careful. No, more careful than that. Or that. Because Radahn deals very high damage, particularly with my very low health. But really, it only takes a handful of attempts to actually play properly. Frankly, I shouldn't have even taken that long, but, you know, I'm spoiled by Night Rain dodges. Oh, I'm really silly. I forgot to grab the Gold Scarab for increased rune gain. Guess I should grab that now, so I have it for later. I'm a bit over-leveled, so the fight at the end should not actually be difficult. I mean, it is still a bit rough managing aggro with 2 attackers when you have so very little health, but they die very quickly. Oh, you know what? I should also grab the Dragon Communion Seal. This scales off both Faith and Arcane, which should make it fairly useful. It also boosts Dragon Communion incantations, and Rotten Breath is very strong. While I'm here, I may as well kill the Ulcerated Tree Spirit. And I have Catch Flame and a decent upgraded seal, so it's not too bad. It also has the fun benefit of being a somber weapon, so it's easier to upgrade than my basic finger seal. While I'm running errands, I should swing back to Radahn's castle to get the Fire Wet Blade. I will need that later. Oh hey, I can also eat some poppables and get my stats up to 18s across the board. Slow improvements continue. Okay, no more delays, it's time to actually head into Leyndell, which is a pretty large area. Good news is that it is also very easy to run through when you know the way forward. Ooh, another Erdtree avatar, and it's very flammable. So yeah, durability isn't great. I guess I should swing by the Round Table Hold here to pick up the Sacred Whetstone. That does include lightning infusions, which might be pretty good. Alright, it's time for a bit of a side quest, because rune arcs are a bit limited in this game, and having to use one every time I want to use my rapier is obnoxious. And wasteful. But to have that 20 dexterity I need consistently, I will need 16 more levels, and that is a lot of runes. But I can also cheese that rune acquisition, because I am lazy, and by doing a little bit of a side quest, I can access Mohg's domain, and shoot this bird, and it will die. 13,000 runes isn't actually a ton of runes at this point, but it's enough. Especially when I can just mindlessly do this while pausing the recording and watching YouTube videos. So behold! 20 in all stats across the board. Huzzah! Were there faster ways to get these runes? Almost certainly. And speaking of which, next boss on the list is Godfrey, who is immune to all status effects but is weak to lightning. I am still going to use the Anspur Rapier for this fight, mostly because it's the most upgraded weapon I have. And yeah, the damage is fine, but my durability is not. Especially when this boss one-shots or two-shots me. I could try more armor. That didn't work. Let's just use a rune arc anyway. More damage, more durability, and the eagle-eyed among you may notice I slightly screwed up the challenge here, because my only decent headpiece was the Mirai Mask, which gives a +1 to Arcane, which breaks the rules. But we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen, because Arcane is not a meaningful stat in this fight, because no statuses. Okay, but yeah, that was indeed a whoopsie. Fortunately, I'm just going to buy some actual armor from the Twin Maidens, and that problem is now solved. Oh, before Morgott, the Ritual Shield Talisman is up here, I just need to handle the Duelist guarding it, which isn't too difficult to do. Fantastic! Okay, that means it is Morgott time. Morgott is pretty fast, with combos that can be difficult to dodge, and while he doesn't actually hit that hard, he doesn't need to. The good news is that I can wield my rapier without a rune arc, so I don't have to buy a bunch of those. Okay, you know what? Maybe Rotten Breath isn't actually the play here. In theory, I just need to get in some rapier hits, which do deal decent rot and bleed buildup. And wow, this fight is sloppy. I wonder how Raduvia does. Yeah, that Blood Blade is pretty good, both for damage and for wild bleed buildup. And there we go, Morgott's dead, swap some talismans around. It's wild how I never forget to pop a Foulfoot in Elden Ring, but in Night Rain, I could open a restaurant with all my uneaten feet. My brain sometimes. Morgott dead, which means I'm properly in the endgame now. How much longer is this video? Interesting. That's probably fine. Okay, I swear, what is up with the stats on this one night? Jerk. I just wanted to kill the scarab. Okay, I honestly did not remember that Archer was there. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna run past them. And run through the Forbidden Lands, past the Blackblade Kindred, because nobody has time for a Blackblade Kindred. In this ruin is another smithing stone bell bearing, which will make weapon upgrades way easier. And past the big ice dragon is another bell bearing, but for somber stones. Yay for a bunch more weapon upgrades. And I guess it's just fire giant time. I'm not too worried about this fight. Having Torrent means avoiding attacks shouldn't be too difficult, and he is vulnerable to bleed and rot, which I can dish out in abundance. I even get him to phase 1 on my first attempt, which is honestly better than normal. Not a victory though, because this obnoxious crawl one-shots me, so good to know any hits will just kill me, which to be fair is not actually surprising. I should probably have infused the rapier with frostbite, shouldn't I? Then I could use it for rot and frost and switch to Reduvia for bleed. Every time you proc a status in this game, the boss's resistances do go up, to a limit, so getting multiple procs becomes more and more difficult. Not too difficult though, which is good. Mostly because a portion of Rot's damage is percentage based, and Fire Giant has a lot of health to percentage. Alright, I have a lot of runes, but not quite enough for a level. I guess there is another avatar up here I can destroy. It takes big damage from fire, like they all do, and by using my rapier I can inflict both it and its duplicate with rot. Easy. There we go, 22s across the board. And in Liurnia, I can buy some sleep arrows and the recipe for more sleep arrows. And killing this bell-bearing hunter gets me the bell-bearing to buy the bones I need. Destroying a bell-bearing hunter heals something inside me. Oh, I also never picked up the magic wet blade. This gives me access to magic and frost infusions. Much better. And while I'm collecting wet blades, it's time to head into a crater to reach Nokron. In here is the black wet blade, which gives poison, bleed, and occult infusions. So that, might be useful? Okay, into Farum Azula, run as fast as I can and switch my infusion to deal frost damage, and use Glintblade Phalanx. This spell spawns 4 blades that hover around and deal pretty good damage. More than the spell, actually. Sadly, I have discovered they have nerfed the poise damage. It used to be 10 stance damage per sword, now it's only 5. And if that means nothing to you, 10 poise per sword was probably too much, but it was nice. And it's time for nobody's favorite boss fight, the Godskin Duo. Good news with this fight is both bosses are vulnerable to sleep, and I have a bunch of crafted sleep arrows. Downside, normally I'd put one to sleep and then fight the other, but my damage is actually low enough that I'm putting both to sleep to make sure I can get in a bunch of good hits. The Ansmer Rapier is dealing pretty good damage and proc much needed rot, and then I can switch to Reduvia to get off very nice bleed triggers. This fight still takes a few attempts. I'm much more familiar with these fights in their Night Rain variant than I am in Elden Ring. I also forgot that jump shooting is the correct way to use a bow in this game. Also, the Noble's rolling attack is way easier to dodge when you have Surge Sprint. It still only takes a handful of attempts though. Using every status possible against these bosses is just very strong. Oh, I love getting to a recording section just titled Pain. Oh boy, I'm not looking forward to this. Oh well, I got another bell bearing for beating up the Godskin Duo, so I can upgrade some more weapons. Then run over to Caelid to get the Stopper Stones I really should have grabbed earlier. While I'm here, let's actually do this tower. Radahn's rune gives some pretty good bonuses that might be better than Godric's in this case. Although maybe not. Meh, the Apostle in the basement should give some hefty runes if nothing else. Ooh, Godslayer Greatsword? That might actually be useful later. And while I'm delaying the inevitable, I guess I can also activate Morgott's Great Rune, which requires another boss fight. Really? I'm gonna die to the Fell Twins? Okay, that's embarrassing. Shame on you. Much better. So that's still not enough to level up. Oh, I can do Volcano Manor. That should be easy enough. Actually, no. If I do that, I'm definitely gonna die in a stupid way and lose 300,000 runes. I'm just gonna pop the Fire Giant Soul and kill some birds. There we go, 23s across the board. And now it's back to Farum Azula and the Bird Run, which isn't actually too bad. I think the last time I did this was in heavy equip load, so this is way easier. Alright, time for the boss that I knew was coming up to ruin my day. Oh, no, not you, Tree Sentinel, you're not that difficult. Like, at all. Oh, but you do drop some better armor. Anyway, it's time for Malekith, who is easily one of my least favorite bosses in this game. First up is Garong, who is very aggressive, very damaging, and he has like 19 different ways to throw rocks at you. I've never even really managed to learn his moveset, so it's actually pretty hard to get hits in, even with my better armor, even with my new Great Rune. Good news is he doesn't actually have many ranged attacks, and Glintblade Phalanx deals pretty good damage. The real problem with this fight is phase 2, where Malekith decides to be just a jerk. He gains a bunch of mobility, some ranged attacks, and a few combos that are upsetting. There are pillars around the arena to help mitigate his offensiveness, but they are of inconsistent value, which sadly means they are worthless, because I do not have even close to enough HP where I can be taking these hits. I guess one good thing is that Black Blade effect is percentage based, so it deals not as much damage as usual, or exactly as much damage as usual depending on your perspective. The most consistent way I found to deal damage here is to use Glintblade Phalanx constantly. It's not great, but at least I can cast out of melee range and then it hits mid-dodge. Would be even better if Malekith weren't so jumpy and skinny. God, I wish they hadn't nerfed the poise damage. You know what might help? Let me go chat with Alexander, and then kill Alexander. This gets me the Alexander Shard. This is a pretty considerable upgrade to my Phalanx's damage. So the damage is better. I'm still dead, though. Okay, you know what? It's time to take a break. Okay, back into it. This time with a slightly different physic makeup to maximize damage, which is better, I think? The Garong fight goes basically the same, but that phase is normally easy. That attack. That attack is the problem. I feel like I solved this once, didn't I? Okay, this still isn't working. Time for a change in tactic. And for that, I need to head to Caelid. Murder O'Neill for the Broken Needle, give it to Gowry, give it to Millicent. Now I can buy Celian sorceries, which enemies don't dodge, and the Staff of Loss that increases hidden sorcery damage. Okay, let's give this more attempts. And you know what? We're going light load. We're gonna have the best dodges we can because I'm so sick of this fight. Okay, so Night Shard is a bust. Oh, that's right, I remember now. You break lock on and run behind him. That's how you dodge that attack. What a janky moveset. Ah, but he's dead now. And not my problem anymore. I should actually upgrade the Staff of Loss, though. Next up is Gideon, and he can be a little troublemaker. Actually, let's get the Radagon icon for faster spellcasting as well. In the sewers is the Crimson Medallion +2, which honestly may not be that useful, because while it does boost HP, it is a percentage boost. Okay, good news against Gideon is that he won't dodge roll my spells or my blades, and my damage is okay, if not great. Bad news is Gideon continues to deal an upsetting amount of damage with his spells, and the Rings of Light are particularly difficult to dodge. But you know what? After dealing with Malekith's nonsense, I can absolutely win this. Oh, please count. Please count. Ugh, it didn't count. Fine, let's just do this again. Honestly, Phalanx is dealing so much damage and is so much safer to cast, I'm not sure Night Shard is even worth it. And yeah, no, it definitely wasn't. All those runes acquired, and I can reach 24s across the board. Still bad, mostly in the Vigor sense. The rest of those are fine-ish. But there are only 3 required bosses left in the game, and that starts with Godfrey, Elden Lord. Okay, not sure how I managed to die that fast. The first phase of the fight is just the Godfrey fight again. Maybe Lightning is a better infusion for this fight. That is more damage, though some of that is the Golden Vow Ash of War. Really, I just needed to get warmed up. There we go, back in it. Rotting is great. Alright then, let's try this again, and this time lean into the Phalanx Frostbite meta, and switch over to the Rejuvia to get the bleed procs, and get the phase transition. Oh, that killed me very quickly. Oh, shoot, I forgot to switch my physic back to magic damage. Okay, this really should be going better for me. Of all the fights I was expecting to struggle with, this was not one of them. I one-shot this fight with a bow, come on. Alright, we're back, we've got this. The second fight is really just about finding your openings and exploiting them. Especially when Phalanx deals as much damage as it does, and the rapier itself is pretty good too. Especially with Frostbite. Okay, there's the rhythm. Goodbye, Horalu. I have a lot of runes, but not enough to level. I could kill some birds, but that would take a lot of time and be kind of boring. Let's just do Volcano Manor. It's a pretty quick trip to make that work, and neither of the bosses are actually difficult. Not at this stage, anyway. First on the boss list is the Godskin Noble, who is very easy because I've already done this fight in this playthrough, but it was a duo fight, alone and with more reliable pillars to stop his rolling attack. This fight is not difficult, or even really that interesting. Goodbye. And then Rykard, who is kind of a gimmick boss, like Yorm or the Storm King, but actually requires you to like, do something and dodge attacks, so it's probably my favorite. Still not really my cup of tea, though. It's also helpful to upgrade the Serpent Hunter before you do the fight properly. EG's out of Somber 4s? +3 is probably fine. It's not great damage, relatively, but it is still a lot of damage. It does still take a couple attempts, mostly because Rykart throws out a lot of nonsense in Phase 2, and Jack is so very fragile. But the fight ultimately is just spam L2 and occasionally dodge, and more occasionally, dodge well. And that great infusion of runes is enough to get me to 24s across the board, and over to EG to upgrade the Godslayer Greatsword, mostly because I will be slaying a god, right after I run to some merchants to spend these runes before I inevitably die a bunch and lose them all. Alright, no more putting it off, it's time for Radagon. This boss is weak to fire damage, but let's give a Frost Infusion an attempt. Okay, Glintblade Phalanx is not the answer, at all. Not that I really expected it to be. And okay, Frostdraw did pretty good, but I do need to relearn this boss's moveset. And that is really a work in progress. But there's really nothing else for me to do, so I just gotta keep throwing myself at the fight to relearn the boss. And I know I can do it. If I beat this boss with a bow, I can beat this boss with basically anything, but it is a learning curve. Okay, that's not how you dodge that attack, me. Frostbite was good, but I wonder if Flame Art is better? Radagon is pretty vulnerable to fire damage. The damage is better, but not by a lot, and without Frostbite procs, it's probably not actually that distinct. But once Rot procs, I can switch to Catch Flame, and that is definitely better. I then need to do a quick weapon switch to the Godslayer Greatsword for Elden Beast, which is dealing more damage, though in retrospect I probably should have grabbed and upgraded a non-elemental weapon here. Oh well, too late now. This fight is definitely easier than Radagon, but it is not free. But I can do this, just a handful of more attempts. No, don't look at the rune art counter in the bottom left. I said, don't look. But eventually, finally, thanks to the power of charged attacks and a disappointing number of rune arcs, Elden Beast goes down. And that was Elden Ring, beaten while keeping all of my stats equal. Other than that one fight where I put on the Mirai mask like an idiot, but that's fine because it impacted nothing. And that was pretty interesting. This game just has so many options for how to build your character and tools to use. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out next week. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos. So if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone and will remain that way. For now, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.